subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. This is in Surah Fussilat, which is Surah number 41 and verse number 34. It says, repel evil with something better. Then he between whom and you there was enmity will become a close friend. This is Allah's advice, that even if you have an enemy, be gentle, be good to him, so that his enmity is softened. If even he does not become a close friend, as Allah is saying, protecting here, but still his enmity will be softened. But this is the human psychology. The Prophet ﷺ is using human psychology even against his enemy to make them his friend. This is number 5. Number 6, to use whatever resources are available, even from the unbelievers, for the advantage of his followers. A glorious example for the Muslims of today, even, that after the Battle of Badr, there were 70 prisoners were taken in the Battle of Badr, and they were brought to Medina. Many among them were literate people. They knew how to read and write. So he told them, if any one of you teaches 10 Muslim children how to read and write, he will be free. So how he is using the resources of a prisoner, the enemy prisoners, their talent and their knowledge for the advantage of the Muslim community. Now, this is an example of the Prophet ﷺ. We should always keep in mind. If you can learn even from your enemy, even from the non-believers, some knowledge, can gain some knowledge which will advance your own knowledge, advance your own society. You just do it. This is how the Prophet ﷺ used even the prisoners of war. He was not hesitate because they were, they had just had fighting, and you were just the prisoner. So this is another example which we can derive from the success. So this is the secrets of his, the success in this world, and how he took advantage of any situation which came around. Next, the seventh principle, not to see everything as black and white. An example of this is that in the Battle of Mu'tah, Khalid ibn Walid, who became the commander eventually after a few of the commanders were killed by the Muslims, and the Muslims were overwhelmed by the number of enemies. The Khalid bin Walid took advantage and retreated. He came back, retreated, and he saved his army and retreated and came back to Medina. So some of the Sahaba who did not understand were calling them Ya Farrar, that is, oh deserters. They thought that they should have just fought and to the last man. But the Prophet ﷺ said, don't call them Farrar, call them Qurrar. That is, men of advancement. That is, You don't unnecessarily destroy your resources, even human resources or whatever resources, just for the sake of his stubbornness. No. Don't consider this as a black and white situation. If there is a possibility of saving your resources, if you otherwise be destroyed, so do it. And the Prophet ﷺ, just pacified all these people who thought that they have deserted, but they were not deserters, because the opportunity comes again. There is always another day, another opportunity. So this is the seventh principle, is to save your resources. Don't consider black and white, and take advantage of securing your human and other resources if possible. And number 8, to bring the struggle, the situation in your own favor. Now, an example of this, the Prophet ﷺ made a treaty with the kuffar, with the unbelievers. It's called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. The Muslims, many other Muslims who did not understand the wisdom of this, they were objecting to it, even Sayyidina Umar, because certain clauses in that treaty, they seemed apparently unfavorable to Muslims. For example, one clause was that if an enemy comes as becomes a Muslim and from Quraysh, from Makkah, comes to the Muslims, he should be returned. But if somebody goes from the Muslim side to the Quraysh side, he may not be returned. I mean, apparently, it seemed very weak especially to Sayyidina Umar. But the Prophet ﷺ realized that there is a time when you make peace, because it serves his mission. His mission is not to just conquer the enemy. His mission was to bring as many people to Islam as possible. Now, it is realized, we realize it now, that whenever there is a situation of hostility, then the enemy is painted as black. The worst possible epithets, worst possible names are given to the enemy, such and such, such and such. And so you don't hear the message what he was given. So if you consider the Quraysh, especially after the battles which they lost, they were looking at the Muslims in a very bad propaganda, just, you can see this every time, like all Muslims are terrorists or something. The similar epithets were given in that time. So how to soften that thing is only possible if there is a peace between the non-believers and the Muslims. The non-believers have an opportunity to mix with Muslims, to come to the Muslim society and see how they love each other, how the society is a pure society, a saleh society, a good society, how the Muslims live like brothers, those who are enemies live like brothers, how the Islamic teaching have transformed the character of you. This is a great opportunity. So anytime, if there is a bad propaganda against the Muslim, the only way to overcome it through examples, through giving an opportunity for peace, so that people can come and see what they have been picturing, or the ugly picture they have been described in propaganda, especially today, in today's world. We have television, we have press, we have all kind of propaganda. A little thing becomes a big, they make a molehill into a mountain. So at that time, the best thing, if we follow the example of the Prophet ﷺ, to have as much peace as possible with the enemy. And so it was the first time when the many leaders of the Quraysh many enemies of the Quraysh, like Amr ibn al-As, Khalid ibn al-Walid, or people like that, who had an opportunity, their opportunity to come to Medina, and then they saw and they accepted Islam, because it was possible only through this peace treaty. So this is an example where you bring the struggle in your own favor, in your favor. Apparently, it looked like a defeat, but it was a victory, as Allah Subhanahu wa Taala later revealed that it was a glorious victory. It was from Him. And then we see these days, revolutionary things going on. We say Islamic revolution in Iran, Islamic revolution here, but was that the method of the Prophet ﷺ? Did he bring a revolution? Did he want to grab the political power in Mecca with the help of, a kind of a revolution? No. His method was gradual. You don't change character of the people through revolution. You may gain power, but if the people are not prepared, to live a decent life, to live an Islamic life, your power is not going to do anything. So his method was, as Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, told him, recite to them the verses of the Quran, then purify their character as they become Muslim, which is a long process, gradually. And similarly, Sayyida Aisha said, if the Quran, if the Prophet ﷺ, for example, in early years of Makkah, had said, okay, the alcohol is prohibited, the illegal sex is prohibited, nobody would have heard it, because they were not prepared to listen to him unless their heart was changed, the Iman is changed. So the Prophet's method of changing the character, changing the other human being, is through message, through tazkiyah, through teaching, through preaching, through gradual process. It took years and years for some Sahaba to absorb, the pure teaching of Islam. It took years and years. So this is what. So the Sharia, the legislation, which we these days we try to impose through revolution, it doesn't work, because people are not prepared. The Iman has not entered into their heart. Their character has not changed. Yesterday, those power-hungry people, today they will become all of a sudden Islamic. We have seen time after time that the Prophet's method was not a revolution, but gradual teaching and changing the character. This is very important, especially for Muslims who want to change their society. They cannot change the society by taking just grabbing the power. That's not the Prophet's method. And next, the 10th is the Prophet ﷺ, very conscious of the image. He didn't say, well, the people think, I am such and such, I don't care. No, he was very conscious. The example of this is then when the munafiqeen, it became obvious that there are certain munafiqeen among them who did, for example, they were going, when the Prophet ﷺ was taking 1,000 people for the battle of Uhud, 300 of them were returned. Abdullah ibn Abi Salul, he was a well-known munafiq, the leader of the munafiq. He said, the Prophet didn't take my advice, so I'll take my followers back. He took away 300. It was very obvious that the Islam has not entered into his heart. He was, for a political purpose, he's just declaring himself. So Sayyidina Umar said, shall we kill him? The Prophet was so conscious of his image, he said, so that the people may say that Muhammad kills his companions? No, we will not do that. Similarly, the Prophet ﷺ with his wife at night. His wife Sophia, he was talking to her, and some people passed by him. So he stopped them. He said, "Come back here. This is my wife Sophia." They said, there, imagine that. The person is talking to his wife, he is a prophet. They all know him to be the prophet. But just to stop possibility of rumor, why is this man, or even he is a prophet, why is he talking to a woman in the street? So he clarified. So he was very conscious of his public image. And we should also be conscious what other people think of us. Why they interpret our action to be this or that. So we should clarify immediately possible to any kind of misinformation. Similarly, in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, he was signing, or he did not sign. Sayyidina Ali was signing for him. So Sayyidina Ali signed Muhammad Rasulullah. Then the ambassador from the Quraysh, he said, if you accepted him, accept as your messenger of God, then there is no quarrel. We don't accept you. So we are not making a treaty with you as your messenger of God. So he told Ali, to scratch it and write Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Of course, Sayyidina Ali, he was so honoring the Prophet, he would not do it. So by himself. So he compromised here. A big thing is going to be thrown away just to be for the wording of it. No, he realized the importance of the Treaty of the Hudaybiyah. So he was not hesitant to make this kind of compromise. So he was flexible, and he was pragmatic. We call it pragmatic. So this is an example of his pragmatism. This is number 10. Number 11, he always consulted with his companions. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, وَشَاوَرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. And always, if it was a wahi, if it was a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course there is no consultation. But in the matter of choosing where to place the army in Badr, in the matter of when there was Al-Azab, there was a possibility of making some compromise with some a part of the enemy, giving them food. He consulted with his companion in Battle of Uhud. He consulted with the companion, and he took the majority opinion, although it was against him. His opinion, his personal opinion, was to stay in Medina to defend Medina, rather than to go out and fight the mushrikeen. But he consulted with his companion, and the majority said they would like to go and fight. And so he is setting an example. This is an uswa. This is uswa hasana. If he did, for example, from his own revelation, some action that was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in human affairs, he wanted to involve everyone, so that the leader who will come afterwards will not become dictators. If he could have become dictator, he said, I am Rasul, I received the wahi. So whenever he received the wahi, in matters of wahi, he did not compromise. But in any other affairs, he took it. And similarly, he used the most recent technical knowledge for his defense. And this example of that is the Battle of the Trench, Hadna. This was Salman al-Farsi. The Arabs at that time, they did know that you can dig a trench around your city and protect it. They did not know. They just knew how to fight in the field. So the Salman al-Farsi, who came from Iran, from Persia at that time, who was a close companion of the Prophet, came and became the Prophet. He said, you know, if we dig a trench around Medina, we will be safe and protected like that. So he did not say, oh, this is a new technique, I don't know about it. He used what were the most modern, is a kind of, you know, a modern technique by him. So he used that. So I'm to summarize the Prophet ﷺ as not as a prophet. Even if you don't consider him as a prophet, you can take all these wise actions which he had done to be the most successful leader in the history of mankind. Of course, as Muslims, he is more than just a leader, just a worldly leader. So we not only follow this, must follow or should follow all these things which he has he implemented his own life, but also, you know, an example in all other affairs, because his sunnah is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Atiyu Allah wa atiyu Rasul, so we also follow his sunnah. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.